traders, and welcome to another exciting edition of our weekly XAUUSD and GBPUSD trade analysis. Okay, so I'm excited to be here with you as we dive into the dynamic world of forex trading. So in today's video, we'll be dissecting the price action for XAUUSD and GBPUSD, identifying key and potential levels on the charts, and discussing potential strategies for the week ahead.
Alright guys, welcome back. So as you can see on my screen, this is XAUUSD gold on a daily time frame. Just as you can see, there are some key zones, there are some key marked out zones, resistance and support zones that we need to be looking out for, that we'll be expecting price to retest even break out from for next week. So right here you can see this is a very valid sub-resistance zone right here. As you can see, this is also a very valid support zone. So for next week on the daily time frame for XAUUSD, we'll be expecting price to move upward to this zone or even break out of the zone to the upside. So we'll be expecting price to move upward to this zone, to respect this zone right here, or even break out of it on the daily time frame, guys. So for XAUUSD, we'll be expecting movement to the upside or even a breakout of this resistance zone here to the upside. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue downward, we'll be expecting price to drop to this support zone right here before continuing upward. We'll be expecting a drop from the current zone downward to this support zone right here before a continuation to the upside. So generally for XAUUSD, we're expecting price to continue upward and even break out of the resistance, which is this resistance zone right here. But if price decides to drop downward, we'll be expecting price to drop to this support zone right here before continuing to the upside. So guys, we're going to move over to the 4-hour time frame so we can see some very visible and clear zones that we need to also look out for. Okay guys, so this is the 4-hour time frame for XAUUSD gold. As you can see on my screen, the zones we marked out are still very visible. As you can see, this is a very visible support zone right here. I'm just going to be marking out. You can see price retested this zone right here, price also retested the zone right here, and also right here, as you can see, guys. So for next week, we'll be expecting price to, like we said, continue to the upside to this resistance zone right here. But on the flip side, if price decides to drop from its current zone, we're expecting price to move over to this support zone right here. So I'm just going to be drawing that out real quick so we don't get really confused. So for next week, we'll be expecting movement of price from its current position to this resistance zone right here before there will be a drop or even break out of it for next week to the upside. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue downward from its current position, we are going to be expecting price to move downward to this support zone before continuing to the upside, guys. But real quick, I'm just going to highlight something real quick. As you can see, this is also a valid support zone. This is also a very valid support zone. I'm just going to change that color so we don't get really confused. So we'll be expecting price to either bounce on this support zone or even move down to the next support zone before continuing to the upside for XAU on the 4-hour time frame. So guys, I'm just going to be moving over to the 1-hour time frame so we can see some other key visible zones that we need to look out for, guys. Alright guys, this is the 1-hour time frame on XAUUSD. As you can see right here, the zones that we marked out on the higher time frame are still very valid and visible on the 1-hour time frame, guys. This is a very valid resistance zone of which we are expecting price to turn into a support before moving to the upside. This is also a very valid support zone. This is also a very valid support zone. As you can see on the screen, we'll be expecting price to move to the upside, to continue to the upside, to retest this resistance zone above or even break out of it, guys. But on the flip side, if it decides to continue downward, depending on the opening of the price on Monday, we'll be expecting price to move down to this support zone or even to the next support zone below before continuing to the upside. We'll be expecting movement of price to the downside to the support zone right here, or even below it to the next support zone below. But if price decides to continue upward, like I said, we'll be expecting price to come up to retest this resistance zone above, or even break out of it and to continue movement to the upside. So guys, generally on XAUUSD, what we are expecting for next week is a little drop to the downside with support zone before continuation to the upside. But on the flip side, if price, depending on the opening price on Monday, if price decides to continue to the upside, we are expecting it to either retest or respect the resistance zone, which is this resistance zone right here, or even break out of it to continue to the upside. So guys, that will be all for XAUUSD. Let's move over to GBPUSD and see some key zones that we need to look out for. Okay guys, this is GBPUSD on a daily time frame. As you can see on my screen, there are some key zones that have been marked out that we're expecting GBPUSD to either retest or even break out from for next week. So right here, I'm just going to be highlighting some key zones. This is one of the key zones. This is also a very key resistance zone. As you can see, this was a support zone of which has turned into a resistance zone. As you can see, this is also a support zone right here. So for next week on GBPUSD on a daily time frame, we'll be expecting price to move downward from its current position, which is this zone right here, to this support zone right here. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue upward, we'll be expecting price to retest this resistance zone here before there's a drop to this support zone. So I'm just going to draw that out real quick. In the daily time frame for GBPUSD, we'll be expecting price to move to retest this resistance zone before there's a drop to the support zone right here. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue downward, depending on the opening of the market on Monday, we'll be expecting price to drop from its current position to this support zone right here. So generally on GBPUSD on the daily time frame, we're expecting price to move upward to this resistance zone right here. But on the flip side, if price decides to drop, we'll be expecting price to drop to this support zone right here. So let's move out to the 4 hours time frame so we can see some other clear visible zones that we also need to look out for. So guys, this is the 4 hours time frame on GBPUSD. Remember, we always do a top-down analysis so we can get a clearer picture of what we should expect. So for GBPUSD on the 4 hours time frame, the zones that we marked out on the daily time frame are still very visible and clear. So right here is very visible support zone that was turned into resistance by price. So we'll be expecting price to drop to this support zone right here, or even the support zone below that. But on the flip side, if price decides to go upward, we're expecting price to respect this resistance zone here before dropping. So I'm just going to draw that out real quick so we don't get really confused right here. So we'll be expecting price to move upwards to this zone right here, which is the resistance zone, before the drop. But on the flip side, if price decides to drop from its current position, depending on the opening of the market on Monday, we'll be expecting price, to move downward to this support zone, or even break out of the support zone and give some movement below to the next support zone. So generally for GBPUSD on 4 hours time frame, we're expecting price to move a little to the upside to respect the resistance zone above, or if price decides to drop, depending on the opening of the market, like I said, we're expecting price to move down to the support zone, which is the support zone right here, or even break out of it to the next support zone. So guys, join me as we move over to the 1 hour time frame. Let's get a clearer picture of all of this. Welcome. So this is the 1 hour time frame for GBPUSD right here, as you can see on my screen. Just like we did on the 4 hours time frame, the zones are still very visible and clear. As you can see, this is a very valid zone of which we drew on the higher time frame. This is also a very valid resistance zone of which we drew on the higher time frame. So right here, as you can see, it's on the downtrend. So we are expecting price. I'm just going to zoom out so we can see clearly what I'm talking about right here. So we will be expecting GBPUSD to drop to this support zone on the 1 hour time frame, or even to the next support zone, which is right here on the 1 hour time frame. Movement to the upside to respect this resistance zone before there's a drop. But on the flip side, if price decides to move downward from its current position, remember we always make reference to the opening of the market on Monday. If price decides to move downward from its current position, we'll be expecting price to drop from its current position to this support zone, or even below the support zone to the next support zone below that. So guys, that will be all for GBPUSD. Remember, generally we're expecting price to move a little to the upside to respect the resistance zone above, or drop from its current position to the next support zone, or even below the support zone after that. Okay guys, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of our weekly forecast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also turn on the notification so as to get notified whenever we post our weekly forecast. And also guys, please don't forget to join us on our weekly webinars, which are hosted every Wednesdays. You can check through the description of this video to get the link to our Telegram channel. Please don't miss out on the webinars. It's always educative, always captivating, and we share insights on forex trading as a whole. Please join us. Much love from 15xFX. See you next week, same time, same station. GMGM guys.